everyone. I'm Nisha M, your geek mom from Diversely Geek, and we are inaugurating our new wonderful endeavor called Diversely Geek Discusses.
Yes, so this is our first episode in our Diversely Geek Discusses series, and this week we bring to you Diversely Geek Discusses Lost in Space. If you haven't seen this show yet, you have to. To give you a bit of an idea of how Diversely Geek Discusses will work, it's basically just our general philosophy of what we do as Diversely Geek. When we divulge into a fandom, we discuss the diversity, the themes of positivity, acceptance, unity, and really go into the psyche of the characters, the writing, the story, the impact, the influence, just the overall, how the story what the story brings to our society as a whole.
Yeah, we're looking at social and cultural influence and how it relates to us as the fans and just generally to the community, and then basically how is that going to help it have a positive impact in our world, you know? I mean, basically that's what fandom's about. So, and we are extremely excited to announce that we will be working with the amazing...
I don't know about amazing, but my name is Gecko, and you've seen me before on Man Bites Film. If you haven't, please check it out. Yes. And I'm really honored to be with you guys, honestly. Especially the first episode. I mean, yes, that's a great honor. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's the start of a wonderful partnership.
Agreed.
He was just sitting here quietly while we blurbed on to you. But yeah, so he's amazing. You definitely do have to follow him as well on all of his outlets. And he's here with us to discuss Lost in Space, of course, because it is a show that we all have fallen in love with. Yes. I personally have now seen it 4 times.
Wow.
Because it's just that good. And we just keep watching it, honestly. So,
and learn more every time.
Yes, that's just how good it is.
Yeah.
So we can start a little bit with, I guess, the history of Lost in Space. Lost in Space, for those of you that don't know, is actually I'd say a reboot, not really a remake, because the original, there was a series and there was also a movie, but both were really different stories, as is this take on Lost in Space. So I like to call it a reboot, not a remake.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I obviously wasn't around for the originals, but Mom, you were, and you definitely had a lot to say on this series.
Oh, I have a huge amount to say. I cannot... You guys have to see me scream when the title sequence comes on and that music comes on. It's like, I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Fangirl much there.
Yeah, we couldn't skip on like how Netflix says play next episode. No, we had to play it out so Mom could hear every title sequence and the intro and every ending sequence.
But don't you love that when you could actually enjoy the music, the title sequence, repeat it over and over and over again? There's some fandoms that you could actually do that. One of mine was Stargate. I love Doctor Who, of course. You can't skip past that. And this one as well. It was the same thing. I'm like, yes, give me more.
Da, 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 da. Sorry. I had to do it. I got that out there. Okay. So,
I mean, if you've seen it, it's playing in your head.
It's
right
playing
now.
in your head while we're talking to you. Basically, it's a series that came out in late 60s, early 70s, in that time span. I watched it as a little young'un. I have come to understand that I have an extreme strong affinity for time travel and the possibilities of hope and trust and faith that come with the ability to travel through time and through space. And while Lost in Space isn't about time travel, it's about a future where we have, as a society, as a culture, as a race, as humanity, have brought ourselves to a possible state of annihilation because of our own choices.
Yeah.
And originally, that's pretty much the philosophy was an undercurrent in the first series, although we don't really delve into it that much. So while the surface of the story and what we love in terms of the character names have stayed true, the entire story arc and the infrastructure, oh my goodness, I could not rave enough about the wealth and the depth of the infrastructure of what these writers have created with the new Lost in Space. So, following the origins, following the musical interludes, which are very important, and the character philosophies are there, but oh my God, probably 1,000% more intense.
I agree. Honestly, like you said, I think that we as a people identify with time travel and this particular movie and at this particular showing in this case is because it's that giant button. It's that giant red button that gives us the opportunity to reset ourselves and say, this is what we hope for in our society. This is our thrive to be these type of people and to be able to reset our society. That's a fantastic idea. And that's why these sci-fi shows like this in particular connect with us so much, because it gives us that opportunity to see, what do you think society will be if we do hit that reset button? Will we just go back to the same thing that we're facing now? Or are we going to actually learn from our mistakes?
And to clarify, you don't reset in this storyline. We are seeing a possible future that allows us to reset now, or that encourages us to reset now. What an innovative way to look at it.
And the way they build the society and everything, I think, is fantastic. The way that this particular show, the Netflix original show, does it. It does such an easy job of portraying this world and this universe, I guess you could say,
definitely.
that it comes out fluidly. It's not forced. It's not contrived. It doesn't feel like a contrived film or anything like that. It feels like it just, it exists.
Yeah,
period.
everything
Just
about it. The music,
just
the story, the characters, the visuals, the writing. Yeah, every single thing is completely, like I said, fluid and natural. Nothing is contrived. Honestly, it's brilliant.
Actually, you forget you're watching anything.
Yes.
You become completely embraced by the visual and the character movements.
The actors do a phenomenal job.
There's a very strong female element.
Yes, yeah. Actually, I believe most of the writers are female writers. They, at least what I've seen, one of the main writers is a queer female, and she does a lot of sci-fi, and I think that definitely translates because she's worked on sci-fi in ways that she's seen, like the things that are contrived.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, like it has to do with the diversity in the creative team, that you have so many different points of view that just are very cohesive.
And it's not just we're not really just identifying race diversity, we're not just gender diversity, we're really identifying social, ethnic, cultural, demographic diversity, which is just what a plethora of possibilities, as I said before, because they're bringing a perspective from a fandom perspective. So I've come to the understanding, I think you guys agreed with me on this, that they have to be super huge fans themselves of the medium, right?
Yeah.
To have been able to do what they do. One of the things she was referencing was the scene cutting. It's whoa, my God, this is masterful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, am I right
the
on
pacing
that?
on that. The pacing is wonderful. Everything is set to a tone, and it moves. Every episode has a tone
to create an emotional arc through all of the cutting. You know that it's so purposeful, and when you go back and watch it a second time, you're like, yep. We see it completely.
And not only that, you see the what do you call it, the writing and the cinematography, the directing,
Oh, yeah.
it's done in a way that feels like you're actually seeing something for the first time, seeing something new that you've never seen before. Because let's be real, the Hollywood scene was very limited and did not allow a lot of minority groups, or it didn't show any diversity whatsoever. As liberal as they are, they never show diversity, and they don't allow diversity to actually go up the ranks. And finally, with these streaming platforms like Netflix, like Hulu, we're seeing this programming that comes out that is so much more diverse and so much more embracive towards our culture.
Inclusive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's just like a factor of these platforms, these streaming platforms, are just being inclusive of real stories. Like,
Yeah.
when people, like, and us too, like, when we say we want diversity, it's not because, like, we want, like, something that's so out there. No, we just want the realness of humanity, representation.
Yeah, there are no role assumptions.
Correct.
Not whatsoever. It's based in realism, as we keep saying, and relativism, as again we've all pointed out. Absolutely. So
I think going to, just because it's perfectly on the spot, one of my favorite characters is Dr. Watanabe, and that is one of the worst cliches in any movie show. He's a Japanese actor, and just because he's a Japanese actor means that he's going to have a really, really heavy accent, and he's going to show distinguishments that he's Japanese and do certain things that are Japanese actions. And this is one of the first movies and shows that I've seen that actually portray him as a person, not as a cliche stereotype. And I really, really appreciate that, because Japanese culture is fascinating and it's so intricate and so amazing. And they do such a good job of fleshing out this character with so little words. And I think that's such a representation of that culture.
It's based on it's based on his character and his integrity, his ethical and moral principle. It shines completely through this actor.
Yeah.
It's just I mean, you want to have him as part of your family.
He's like for me, like kind of a Uncle Iroh, like from Avatar: The Last Airbender, because I think we've talked about how just seeing him on the screen gives you like this calming like sensation, because he exudes the personality of his character, which is in all honesty, you only see him like maybe in like 5 scenes, I think.
Yeah. But it's so impactful that it sticks with you. And honestly, like, they don't really give him screen time whenever he's actually talking or anything. He's off to the side of the screen, so he's never even the main focus on the screens when he's actually being portrayed. But it's just his personality, and it's so original, it's so organic that it stands out. And a lot of these characters, they have this sense that they just kind of melt away. And I think that the reason that we enjoy this show so much is because this is what we want our society to be like. It's complete inclusion, a complete acceptance of anybody and everybody, including the children. They have such a high respect and high regard for the children in this show.
Yes,
and you don't see that. And it's amazing how they do that.
To clarify that point, if I could, it's because in order for this particular Mission 24 group to have made it to be part of the mission in the first place, which will then take them from a dying Earth to Alpha Centauri, where we are recolonizing and, just as you said, resetting humanity and getting a chance to be able to thrive. They have to pass extremely rigorous psychological, physical, sociological testing, and that's from the child on up, because one of our main protagonists is 11 years old, and they have to go through. There's no way that I think I could have gone through it, this type of testing, and pass that to be able to then be allowed to be part of the mission. And then each of them has their own specific forte or specialties and skill sets that they bring to their Jupiter being their own ship.
And then to Alpha Centauri.
And then to Alpha
as a
Centauri
society.
itself as a society. So there's a lot of ladder stepping to go through in order to even be considered, secondly, to pass through the testing, and then on top of that you have to go through conditioning and reconditioning.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then training on Jupiter itself. So we aren't told this, we see it just as
Through
an
the story.
undercurrent through the
Yeah.
story. And we realize
Subtly.
that every person that we see has gone through all of this.
Yeah.
And they earned their place.
definitely.
That's the key word. Earned.
They earned their place. And the thing is, like, two of the characters that seem like they're like the underdogs, or they're not really like belonging in this group of like scientists and extremely smart people, completely belong there. They earn their spots just like everyone else, and they are smart in all their own rights. Penny and VJ. I think that, you know, we see them as like this, you know, like adolescents, and like they have this budding romance, and it's
But
meant
they throw
to be,
it down.
Yeah, it's meant to be like, but it's meant to give us still that sense of humanity, because
Yeah.
teenagers are gonna have crushes still, and are going to make mistakes like adults too.
Yeah.
But you see the humanity in this teenager, you see the humanity in this 11-year-old boy, the innocence, the sense of naivety, but in a way that's extremely respected. None of the characters are ever, condescending to one another, except for maybe one at times.
But
But
I
that's
mean,
a story
it's part.
arc.
It's part of the story arc. and
It's a
part of the
story arc,
development of
which
the
is, there's resolution to that story arc,
Exactly.
which is beautiful, because that is probably a story arc that is most relevant to our social climate at this time.
Yes. I mean, I think if at our worst we were that character, we would be a great
It'd still be
humanity.
okay.
Yeah.
It'd still be okay even if we were this character that we're discussing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And even the characters that didn't pass all the tests, didn't go through all this
Didn't
trial and error,
Pass.
but do you think they deserve to be on this?
Isn't that an interesting
Because
question?
didn't they pass their own tests to get on there? Whether it's a good way or not, they passed their own tests to get on there. They did what's best, what they know best, which is manipulating, which is conniving, which is being able to find a way. And in a sense, isn't that the best of humanity as well? Just in a more evil sense, but isn't that humanity as well?
But
And shouldn't
again,
that get
that's-
representation?
Exactly. That is still relativism.
I think that's
as
the
we're
point
saying.
of her character. I think it resonates because, honestly, of the characters bring to the story everything, and then as a whole, the story has this influence on us. Honestly, it's something that we could go on forever about, like, just to discuss each character. And I know we've talked about it on our own so many times. Like, for you, your favorite character, going back, like, with I think it's Doctor, because I think there's most of them are doctors.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, most of them are doctors, right? I love all of his scenes, but honestly, that first scene when you see him, the beauty. Okay, and we're gonna have to talk about this. The cinematography.
Oh,
We briefly touched on it, but the cinematography in this show.
it's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
We talked about how even, like, influential and impactful it is,
Yes, we
and
did.
very innovative.
Yeah.
And impactful for the sci-fi genre.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because they're wide shots.
Yeah.
They're wide shots of the background scenes, of the background action, and interaction is extremely relevant to the movement of the story. So while we're seeing an on-scene action and interaction, we have to pay attention to everything you're seeing in the background, because it's without us paying attention, we're missing something that's extremely relevant to probably 2 episodes later on.
Yeah.
For instance, the original scene when the Jupiter with Dawn and Dr. Smith crash, we don't realize where they crash until what episode is it that we bring it back? It's episode 8 or 6, 7, or 8. And then even more relevant as to the change in that scene, in that background, and to the setting and to the environment and the climate of that environment, and how important it is to have seen it here and to see it there. Again, I can't give you spoilers, I just can't, but it's explaining to you that what you see in episode 2 is so relevant to episode 8.
Yeah,
you know
every single
mean?
frame of this show, it portrays something that you're gonna see the impact of it at one point or another in the show, and if not, it's just a beautiful scene that builds the character. So none of these scenes are wasted for any reason.
Yep.
And the few scenes that are kind of in there for filler, quote unquote, which I can't really identify a single one that was really a filler scene, they build characters, they build motivations towards the character, or they're just beautifully shot and set the piece